Now this one is pretty special, I think. Every village has that old person who just was always there. And no one knows where he came from, nobody knows much about his private life, but he always seems to be there right when you need him. They don't seem to have any family nearby, they're always otherwise complete loners. And in Alden, that's... Mr. Mctigue. His first name is unknown. Okay, well, he has an element of spirit. His zodiac sign is Cancer, but his birthday's unknown. A blood type AB. Wow. Well, we've got a mystery wrapped in an enigma with the elderly Mr. Mctigue. He arrived in the spot that was Alden, and was visibly aged even then. And now, Mctigue is an old name that goes all the way back to the Gaelic Mctigue, that means son of the philosopher. Visually, he bears a strong resemblance to George Carlin, with a splash of Sean Connery. Carlin was a writer, actor, and comedian popular through the 1970s and the early 2000s. Called the Dean of Counterculture Comedians, Carlin was known for his black comedy, reflections on politics, the English language, psychology, religion, and taboo subjects. His 7 dirty words routine was central to the 1978 U.S. Supreme Court case of the FCC versus Pacifica Foundation, which affirmed the government's power to censor indecent material on public airwaves. On June 22, 2008, Carlin lost his decades-long battle with heart problems and passed away at the age of 71. As for a legacy, comedians who have claimed Carlin as an influence include Bo Burnham, Stephen Colbert, Kevin Smith, Chris Rock, and Louis Black, just to name a few. In fact, as a result of the Supreme Court case I mentioned, broadcasters started using the Carlin warning to remind performers of words they couldn't use during a live performance. Talk about a man of culture. No, but back to Mctigue. Not much is known about his life before Patrick and Matthias arrived there, and it said his grandfather built the house that he lives in on a natural spring that's heated by geothermal temperatures beneath the ground. There are many such thermal and mineral springs all over Scotland and the UK, and they've been used for bathing for centuries. Of course, Mctigue himself lives a few miles from Alden proper, so this isn't something that's readily available all the time. And it is a straight-up myth that medieval people didn't bathe. Now, they might not have bathed as regularly as we do today. Obviously, it took a lot more work to fill up a wooden tub or wash your entire body in a water basin, but art going back to the 1500s and before portray many different types of washing methods throughout the Middle Ages. Bathing was also a community activity. Public bathhouses were frequented by those with means to bathe at home, like Mctigue's, and in some larger areas they even doubled as brothels. Well, let me be clear. There were no brothels in Alden. Who would they even get to work there? It absolutely did not happen. But perhaps in Glasgow, or certainly Edinburgh, there would be areas that were more densely populated. However, there was also a habit of feasting while bathing, so it's definitely more feasible that good old Mr. Mctigue may offer his patrons fish from the nearby River Clyde. Some medieval sources even warned against excessive bathing, but that was more a commentary on potential quote-unquote sinful temptations that awaited at the public bathhouse, rather than on the cleanliness itself. Most medieval Europeans bathed their full body about once a week, with regular hand and face washing daily. Oh, speaking of bathing, what about soap? Soap was also available. Actually, since the 9th century Europe, homemade soaps were a widely available trade good enjoyed by many cultures. Your average medieval soap was obviously way different than it would be today, minus all the dyes and deodorants that were honestly no good for our skin. It was made with animal fat and wood ash, and sometimes still perfumed with things like fresh herbs, sage, and thyme. There are historical accounts of soap makers in medieval Italy working as part of guilds. One example comes from 8th century northern Italy, in which King Edelbrand of the Lombards promised to provide 30 pounds of soap each year to the Bishop of Piacenza that would be used to bathe the poor. To make such a promise would require the local soap makers to provide the king a certain amount of product each year, and thus they would need to divide the labor amongst themselves and ensure it was distributed fairly, effectively creating a guild. And so we had bakery guilds, we had soap guilds, and that really was just the way of it, wasn't it? We also see a profile of soap raised under the series of laws outlined by Charlemagne for his Carolingian Empire, which covered much of Western and Central Europe during the 9th century. Oh, Charlemagne. That's like the third time this guy has come up during our projects, and it reminds me, I've got another art from Winter's Starlight. Maybe I should color that and just do a whole project on just Charlemagne. I can't say he'd ever appear as a character in our story, but he's obviously a big influence on Europe and the history of what makes our characters' lives the way that they are. Charlemagne's Capitular de Villis mentions soap making as a necessary labor. It was deemed a product of good workmen, along with professionals such as carpenters, metalsmiths, fishermen, and more. Yeah, and blacksmiths. Charlemagne came up during Patrick's original video. Still, made using animal fats, soap during the Middle Ages in Europe actually had an unpleasant smell. But better smelling cleansing soap began to arrive from the Islamic lands, which incorporated olive oil and sometimes lime. And now we've begun to see soap take on a more important role in society as both a basic necessity and a respected craft. As the Middle Ages moved along, soap-making production centers began to emerge. The first prominent center of soap making is thought to be Marseille, France, in the 13th century. Rival centers included Genoa, Venice, and Bari in Italy, and Castilla in Spain. All these places boasted plentiful supplies of olive oil and the Berea plant. Its ashes were used to create lye, which became the standard soap-making formula for centuries forward. Also, for anyone who doesn't know what lye is, yeah, look that up. It's actually a really powerful acid. There's also evidence of soap-making production centers in England around this time, in the towns of Bristol, Coventry, and London. Following the Middle Ages, Marseille in the 16th century continued to be France's soap-making center and supplied the product across the country. Even today, the region continues this tradition, and its soaps are still used and beloved thanks to its simple, natural recipe of vegetable oil, soda, salt, and fresh water. Similarly, we still see the popularity of Castile soap, which originated from Castilla, Spain, due to its natural ingredients. It uses vegetable, plant, or nut-based oil, and a lack of detergents. Like I said, the detergents and dyes, they're bad for your skin. There are actually a lot of survivalist and old ways channels on YouTube that follow these old ways of making soap. So if you're really curious, you could try making it yourself. But if you're concerned about the scent, you can probably get creative and add whatever smells you like. For me, that's sandalwood. I like the woody, spicy scent, and it's good for your skin too. And that's the neat thing about mineral springs, like the one Mctigue practically owns. Waters like those have long been thought to possess healing or even magical qualities. Stories about ancient hidden pools may lead straight to Tir na nOg, the Celtic land of the Fae. Take the tale of the fairy pools in the island of Skye in Scotland, for instance. It's said that every year Selkies will travel all the way to the island of Skye, ditch their marine skins on the beach, and then walk to the fairy pools to bathe in the full moon. And there's another story that tells of a human prince who met a fairy princess at these pools, and the two fell madly in love. I wonder... No, it couldn't be. After all, that prince's name was MacLeod. At the same time, there's a lot of mystery surrounding Mctigue and how he gets along so well out there all on his own. And I've heard stories that suggest it was even easier for him to do so around Samhain every year. Interesting. Well, I think he's a really neat and unique character with a really fun dialect, and I hope after this you'll really appreciate meeting him in the stories to come. For now, that's going to be all. For now, that's going to be all though. Like, subscribe, and ring my bell for more projects like this. As with every page of our bingo book, the line art was provided by Shalak on Fiverr. There's no doubt in my mind that Shalak's attention to detail and hard realism has really helped develop these characters further. So if you like this guy's art style, and judging by the amount of attention these videos get, you do, follow the link in the description and give Shalak a commission. On the other hand, if you'd like to support this channel directly, as well as all of our artists on Fiverr, head over to the Patreon and become a patron. Every dollar we get goes to producing these projects as well as our episodes. Not only do you get to support a whole list of great independent and professional artists, you'll get access to lots of additional content like the Monmouth comic book by Hitsuji Sam, coloring pages of each of our projects, as well as the scripted form of each episode written by A.A. Moreland. We'll see you over there, along with Shadow Fox, Arya Gamari, Charles Tam, Jace Moreland, and Lander Lumen. Thank you everyone for watching.